the money flow and all this extra shit. So a
It's
little
like being
bit.
a kid in a divorce.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe they'll start competing to hook you up. That would be nice.
Right. That would be great. I love that. So
Man.
what you been up to? What you been up to?
I have been still just trying to walk two tightropes at once, trying to do all the creative work here and trying to keep things on the home front running smooth. And it's it's a challenge trying to strike the balance as my focus and priorities have shifted a little bit. I'm still kind of like, I'm new here. I don't know quite how to structure everything yet. So I've been experimenting with schedules and routines and just trying to see how I can get the most juice for the squeeze every day. And so I feel like I've been traveling almost, like, because I keep changing the program. You know, you wake up in a different place at a different time, and I'm in
Right.
the same place, but like changing out the program has me feeling kind of scattered. So I'm hoping to lock in on something that works for the next stretch and be able to keep cranking stuff out. I've been very focused on video, I realized. When I looked at the list of things I was trying to get done, like that's almost all video. And I wouldn't have guessed that because it's still sort of new to me. I started playing with it in 2020. Not like I never shot a video, but I never did any editing. I never tried to put anything together really. And so now I'm like, oh, this is taking up a big part of my sky. And it turns out I really love it. I really enjoy being able to bring all the elements together that way with, photography becomes the video, and my love of conversation is, it becomes a platform for that. And, for writing, I make reels with some of the stuff I write, and just, trying to have fun with it and occasionally mixing some music in like I do on the stories. But mostly
Right.
it's mostly been writing and conversation. So it's that's pretty much the focus at the moment. What else you got going on? You're always working on multiple things, I know.
Well, yeah. So right now, like I just released the song. What was it? Now it's
Score?
not. Yeah, scoring. It was like 2 weeks now. It's about 2 weeks now since I released it, and now I'm just working on new projects. So at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll just keep releasing singles here and there. But now I'm going back into what I was already doing, which is trying to make like uh, a good collective of songs that go good together, a themed album or a themed EP, whatever comes out of it. So if it's a themed EP, if it's only 5, 6 songs that are cohesive with each other, then that's what I'll go with it. But I actually got some samples, some live samples from Olivia, which she's been on this podcast before. She was also on UG's
Yeah.
podcast. She gave
Coma
me,
cheat?
yeah. So she gave
Yeah.
me a bunch of different sounds about like a few months ago, but I was still working on Godhead and I just held off on that. So now I'm going back into all the stuff that she gave me and I'm making instrumentals and seeing where I'm gonna, if I can use it for a project, if I can make it a cohesive project or not.
That would be cool. I'd love to hear it. And you say it's sort of themed. Are you drawing from old work as well, or is this all new material?
Well, yeah, it'll be all new material. It'll be all new material. It's just more or less of like, how do I want to go about it? Do I want to? Because right now I'm thinking more poetically. So I'm thinking not necessarily like a song in a regular typical song format where it's muse, hook, verse. I'm thinking possibly just do long verses of great wording, play around with the lyrics a little bit. But you never know. Like I never know. Sometimes
No.
it's, I think I'm gonna go this way, and then the music takes me a different direction. I go, oh wait, this actually works, and then I go with that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
try
never
to
know.
be I try to be at the service of the muses, whatever strikes, try to follow the lead.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It would be fun. It would be fun to get more of a flow going and kind of break up the pattern too, see what's hidden in there. So
Yep.
how do you go about it? Do you usually start with the music or the lyrics, or it just kind of depends on which comes up first?
Well, I have two different ways to go about it. The initial way that I used to go about things was just write lyrics down, not necessarily like writing a verse. It would just be like catchphrases and ideas that I have, and I would just, whether it's my phone or whether it's a notebook, just write it down real quick. If it's an idea, just write it down. Just write it down. So then, like, by a couple months or a month, I might have like 20, 30, 40 pages of just different things that mean nothing. They're not cohesive. They don't make any sense. And then when I finally go and make music and get into the writing process of it, I have that to jump back into, and I can read certain things and it might inspire me. Okay, this might work on this. And that little lyric over there, I could pull that into this and then start creating,
Yeah, that's kind of what I would.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that's what I was asking about older material in terms of. I know I often put things aside as sort of a fragment. I just have like I've riffed on something for a minute, I've tucked it aside, and then when I go to do something else, pulling it back out from the archives, I'm in a new place and bringing that together. Sometimes that creates the new material. So that's sort of what I meant when I said, would it be any of the older stuff you've been working on that maybe got set aside, I meant to say.
Oh, no.
Or do you always just like this month's book, like just from here out?
I usually, it's hard for me because I'm constantly changing as a person. Like sometimes I'm in this mindset, sometimes I'm in that mindset, I'm in that mind frame, depending on whatever's going on around me and what I got going on in my life. So I might write 2, 3 months of ideas, go back to those 2, 3 months of ideas and look at it and be like, it's all shit. And I'm not going to throw it away, but it'll still be there, but I won't use it for this project that I'm working on now, whatever. And then sometimes
Yeah.
I might cherry pick a few things and go, oh, wait, this is actually cool. That's a good idea. Oh shit, I forgot about that. Let me try to incorporate it or make something out of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I've had fun going back and finding old work recently. A couple months back, I stumbled on some stuff and I was like, it's interesting because it's so intimate and it's so immediate, and at the same time so much time elapses that it feels like it's somebody else's words. So I understand what you mean about changing and moving forward, that you got to kind of go with what's flowing in.
Yeah, exactly. I try to, although I feel like people don't pay attention as much anyway, but I try to go with the times in whatever is happening in my little bubble, which is usually very alienated from other people's perspective of what they are captivated by at the time. It might go against whatever they believe in, and maybe 6 months or a year down the line, they might be able to go, oh, if they actually were paying attention, oh shit, he was saying this and it was about that. Like if they're paying attention.
Like a grenade.
Right. Exactly. So it's just artsy fartsy stuff to me. Like I just get really nerdy about certain things and I want to incorporate things that go over your head, and some things that might shock you, but mostly I like having fun of putting meaning in things that you don't think meaning is there.
Yeah. Teasing out different themes and playing with double entendres and stuff like that. But that's part of it. I mean, that's you're creating for people, but the process is for you, and you want to be able to engage with it at different levels and kind of make it as rich as possible, I think. So I appreciate the like finer points, the little like in case you're paying attention things. I like the locations you put on your Instagram. It took me a minute to catch on to that originally. But yeah, it's fun.
Right.
It sort of runs with the theme of the post.
Right. It's usually, it's like what would they call that? They're just like little hidden gems, little touches on things where you might not even be paying attention to that at all. You're just scrolling like that's funny, but you didn't catch the overall picture of how, I'm presenting things or playing around with things, whether I'm joking around, whether, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. Well, it's play music, not work music, and I think that's one of the few phrases we got right in terms of, we it's artwork, but you play music, and I think we should carry the idea of play out to the other creative endeavors more, and really enjoy that kind of, like I said, we often end up editing out the best parts, trying to fit the frame that's presented to us. And if you're, if you're willing to stand outside of that and you can go play a little, you can usually find layers and textures that would have gotten lost in doing the tight and right kind of way. And yeah, I enjoy doing that with my stories, trying to find that the title or the lyrics tie in with the theme of the story. That was just a little game I did for myself. It's turned out to be a big part of the work I do on that front, and it's turned out to connect me with all kinds of music too. I'm starting to build playlists off of stuff I find for that purpose. So you don't know what it's going to yield either. We're at the exploration.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, I've noticed, like, especially recently, if people like my music, that's great, and I appreciate the people that do and actually support my shit, but I've really been making music for me in the past couple years. I've just been making what I like, what I think is cool, what I think is fun. I'm not going to where people already are listening to music or things that they're already listening to.
Yeah.
And
that's
more
good for business. It's not good for creating.
Correct.
In business, you kind of do want to know where the need is and meet it. But in arts, it's about guiding people off the path more traveled, right? You're trying to say, come over this way and see what we have here. And
right.
Yeah, it's important to create something. I think authenticity shows through. That's probably the shortest way of saying it.
Yeah.
When you love what you're doing, it's from the heart. It's it's your real passion. It comes across. I can hear it in the music, and hopefully more people tune in and catch on, because there's so much cookie cutter, cut and paste kind of music being made, and it's so fun to be able to give your ears a rest and go on a different kind of trip with it. So
right.
I'm glad that you've been able to find that, and sort of it takes a certain courage to follow where it leads. So I admire that.
Right. Yeah. Liz, I don't mean to cut you off, but it sounds like our audio is going beep, 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 beep in my ear. It sounds like a cricket or some shit.
It's a cricket. Would you be able to hold one moment?
Yeah, I'll hold.
Oh no, I can't even see him. Oh. Can I swing it and change the venue real fast? Oh boy.
Seems like that cricket shut up.
I can't even see him. I hear him right over here, and I can't see him.
He ran the fuck away. You went over there to slap him up, and he started running.
Yeah, I need like a swatting stick. I'll bat over there every so often. Just keep him quiet. We have 0 crickets in here until just now.
Where do you live?
I live under Murphy's Law. I live in northern Jersey, and I'm on an island in a lake surrounded by forests, on a hilltop surrounded by farmland. So it's pretty up there country for being this close to everything. It's about an hour into the city from here, and there's just all kinds of stuff in this area. I think it took about 50 minutes down to Jersey City. So it's not like I'm not way in the boonies. Uh, you know, I lived upstate New York, so far north. They call it the North Country, and I just refer to it as Canada, New York, because you're about 20 minutes from the Canadian border there. And yeah, you're so cut off. I felt it. I'm so spoiled being from this area and having sort of everything in a radius. In like 2-3 hours, you can do anything. I mean, I guess you can't be on a different continent or in the tundra or deep in a rainforest. Although you could fly and get down to Puerto Rico and hit the rainforest there pretty quick. That's only a few hours. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I know the spots.
You know the spots. Yeah. So, all right. So what were we talking about? Got thrown off by that cricket.
Where the cricket mind wiped us. I don't know. We're talking about following the muses and it's gone.
And it's gone. Yeah, just working on music nowadays. It's basically just for me. And I do have a pretty decent taste on music because I listen to all types of things. So I have that. I have that to trust. But outside of that, it's not like I'm making music for a particular group or particular person outside of myself.
Yeah, and I think if you can stay with that, if you can afford to just stick with it and carry it out where people can start to pick up and appreciate what you've got going on, that's how we get the new sounds. It's necessary to sort of do like a blood transfusion on what's out there, draw from what we've heard all our lives growing up. It's a wonderful time to have grown up too, because we were exposed to so many styles and so many people coming up and doing their own thing, and we got to watch different genres come into being. They really, R&B went through a transformation, and then like hip hop and rap kind of like went through a few cycles, and you got to see like even grunge coming up. It was just a series of sounds. We got to watch the waves breaking and rolling in. And having that kind of influence, it's nice to be able to put something back into it too. So I hope more people catch on. I'm doing my part. I'm trying. Let people know you're out there working the good sounds.
Right, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Because a lot of people don't even really know that there's other people making different type of music, or not trying to follow the trends and not trying to do whatever they think they can do for clout. Just actually bring different sounds, different feels, different vibes of music out there.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have the time to go exploring. They're just like, I don't know what's in my feed, and they just jump on whatever is dished out to them, and it's a shame because there's just so much good work being done that gets by on the side stream, and it can get repetitive in terms of what you hear on the main line. So it's it sort of goes both ways when I'm promoting people, where I'm like, I like this. I'd like to help the creator get the work out there. And I know I talk to people, and they're always like, oh, where do you find things? I'm like, I don't know. I go exploring, and I have a minute to do it. So I kind of took that as, if you've got a minute to go looking around, maybe bring some stuff back and share it, that people who are in a rush and they're tired of the same old can tap into another source reasonably easily and try to see if there's something there for them. So
right. Why do you think that so many people aren't really doing that? Like, I think a lot of people are just promoting what they think their friends or their circle already likes. Kind of like, look at me, I listen to the same thing you guys do. Look at me, I'm cool like you. I listen to the same trendy shit. Do you have a different angle on that?
I don't know. I was sort of kicking it around, but I think what you say is really insightful in terms of people being identified with their music. And I do remember being younger and like being like, oh, I don't want people to know I'm listening to, like middle school, I was kind of like, oh, they're going to pick on me if they know I love this. Um, and I guess at some point, like I said, I kind of stopped caring. I was like, I'm not going to get it right, so I'm going to do what's right for me. And so maybe that is a distinction, that I'm not afraid to throw different things out there and say, it's not my identity. It's my interests. It's my connections. It's things I'm excited about that I want to share with other people, but it's not about representing myself. You know, I you can't say that. At some point, you're like, oh, this is gonna like shock people. Like, chill out. Certain things are just too incongruous. But I wouldn't. I leave them out so that there's sort of the original flavor. Like you get a mix of flavors in a thing, and then you start throwing other things in, it may not come out right. So in that regard, I'll edit out things. Like, I don't do all the engineering and tiny house and other stuff that I might have interest in, just because it doesn't necessarily fit in what I'm doing here. But I also don't hide that. I'd go start a project and have it be more about that. And for other people who feel that, like, oh, that's my thing, though, that's how people know me, I'm the tiny house guy, I'm the ska guy, I'm the fire breathing chick, whatever it might be, as soon as people get identified, it's really hard to break away from that. It's like pulling off a piece of yourself to try and do that. So I
Right.
think maybe part of it is helping people recognize that you don't have to buy the whole package. You can have a view, you can even like one track in a genre. You know what I'm saying? I can probably count on one hand the number of country tracks I like, and I have no problem with that. I don't feel like, oh, now I'm trying to say I'm into country. No, I'm not. I know a few tracks I think are pretty cool, and I enjoy them, and they're in my mix. And at the same time, if my identity was built around, like, I'm a metalhead, would I admit that? I don't know. That would be different. I think also people are conditioned to be consumers, and so we get kind of corralled. I guess that would be my thinking, is that we get corralled into these things that, like, it seems like it's the whole of everything and the only thing anybody would know or connect with, and almost out of habit, out of fatigue, maybe we just pull up the thing and be like, oh, it's my jam. I'm like, they may not even like the music, they may not even care.
Right.
It's more of the what do you call it? Like, it's not virtue signaling, but it's like style signaling, I guess,
Yeah.
identity
Right.
signaling.
Right.
It's
Right.
the
Yeah.
same
It's
idea.
definitely it's definitely some type of signaling to be like, hey, I'm part of this group. Put me with the people that are like me. I'm part of this group. I belong over here with these people. Even though there is clearly parts of you that aren't like the rest of that group, but
Yeah, you would hope.
people will tuck it down. I know a lot of different people from different walks of life, and I know that they don't just vibe with one sole thing. But when they get around a couple of people that they like, I know that they like this stuff because we like this stuff together. They amplify it and they go, I'm all about this. This is all I am about. Like, and it's just it's obscene. It's like, no, man, what else do you like? Like,
Yeah.
I had conversations with kids as he was like, I listen to this, I listen to that, and I'm like, what else do you like? What do you play when no one's looking?
Hmm.
It took him about 2 weeks to come back to me and be like, I like Weezer. I listen to Weezer, and I'm like,
Nice.
I like Weezer. I listen to some Weezer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, even like as a rap dude, if somebody sees me, oh, that guy's a rap dude. For me to say I like Weezer, I know I gotta take some heat with that. I gotta be like, I'm gonna say this, and some people are gonna give me a dirty look and be like, "Oh, this guy, he listens to this." Like, and it comes from all directions because I've hung out with not every single group, but I hung out with enough groups to know how groups work.
Yeah.
If you're in a certain
Yeah.
group,
Exactly.
you cannot say things that are outside the group or outside their bubble, because then you either become like a mini enemy Like, oh, that person, can't trust him because he likes different things.
Yeah. What was it I heard about zebras, that the black and white stripes aren't to make them blend in with the broad yellow savanna. They're to make them blend in with each other so that as a mass they look like one larger creature. And when they painted a mark on one of them, the the lion went right after them first. And the problem was, because one was distinct, it brought the lion in close, and so that wasn't good for the rest of them. So I think that really shines a light on human behavior as well. I mean, it's all animal behavior on some level, that you know we want to take a safety in numbers kind of thing. When we're all the same, when we're all locked in together, we feel like we're one big mass against the lion out there on the savannah. And when people start showing up with like a splash of red paint on their flank, that might bring the lion, and we're like, get the hell out of here with that, stop. And the real problem is that we can't just sort of know that and see that and be like, oh, but we're smarter than that. We've got this whole like neocortex thing. We should flex it. We should rise above it. We just kind of fall to what we learn from our environment, from the cues we get from other people. And that was another animal experiment where they put one group of monkeys in with an electrified chair, and every time they sat in it, they got zapped. And then they started to cycle out the monkeys, and bring in new ones who'd like never seen anybody get zapped, and they actually turned the electricity off. But if those newer monkeys went near the chair, the monkeys from the first group would come and like freak out and like smack them and be like, what are you doing? Because we get that conditioning, that reflexive response. So even when the threat was removed, the first group wouldn't let the second or the ensuing groups go near the chair. They would just
Right.
go
No, yeah,
nuts.
that makes sense. That makes sense because, and it's so crazy because it's very animalistic, and we don't like to think of ourselves humans as animals. No, we're humans, or we're not animals. I always like to say, no, we're animals. We are animals. We just
Not mineral or vegetable.
right.
Well,
We
I mean,
are
some
animals.
people, maybe. Some people. But yeah, in general, we are part of the kingdom. And I think being able to sort of look around at other species and see, especially mammals, social mammals will really tell you a lot about how we act. And yeah, I think being able to sort of see that and understand that and go, oh, and then sort of have a laugh at it, be like, oh, this is some like monkey brain stuff I'm doing. I don't have to be at the mercy of that. But you do have to have skin thick enough to like sustain the barbs, because people are going to come at you. Some people take it real personal. Some people will go like vendetta level because you won't fall in line or kiss the ring. And that does take some strength and conviction, and sometimes endurance. And again, we're all stretched so thin. We're all so busy. We're just trying to get by. So I have a lot of compassion for people who are like, how do you do that? I'm like, some of it's time, some of it's knowledge, some of it's courage, and not a lot of us got a lot of time, and we have so much information coming in. It's hard to know what's knowledge from noise. And when you're that spun around and worn down, it's hard to sort of be like, I'm gonna go take shit for this anyway. I believe in this, I'm gonna do it. It's I think what has to happen is more people have to kind of model that as like, this is how you're able to get out and create something of your own and be more of your own person in the world, and find the people who are on those similar missions to kind of be their own selves and create something unique to share with other people. And I'm always kind of looking out for the people who are looking to do that and trying to create sort of a network that over time I forget how it is with a lot of people, because I've built such a nice community through this, that I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. People really get ready to like henpeck you if you get out of line. And I mean, I've had that here with some neighbors where I'm like, I'm not the right kind of whatever. I don't know. I'm just not the right kind. And, that can make it uncomfortable. This is where I live. I take home very personally. Like, that's my, like, that's sacrosanct. Don't be messing with me in my home. And, even at that,
Right.
though, I wouldn't turn around and, like, try to contort myself into some bitter PTA mom just to be able to be like, okay, now they'll be nice to me. They won't be nice to me anyway. Spoiler alert. They'll just put
Right.
me at the bottom of the food chain and like crap on me from on high anyhow, like the best I could do. And then at what expense? How much do I lose of myself and my life and what I have to offer to people who do live outside of that fear and conditioning? So
Right. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say maybe there's the message there that people need to hear, is that there is more outside of it. It's scary, but you get outside. It's like going past the breakers. You go into the waves are all turbulent and everything's kicking and swirling. But you get out past that, it's usually pretty tranquil water. And it'd be nice if there's a way to get people to understand you got to push through out to where the water gets deep and still. And I don't think anybody's getting that message right now.
No, I think there's a lot of people that are scared to even really show who they really are. There's definitely a lot of that. Um, like I said, I've been in a few groups. I've been part of the street culture. People that are in gangs, people that are selling drugs. I've been a part of the indie, not I wouldn't say indie, like the emo pop punk scene, horrorcore scene. I've seen how they conducted themselves. I'm Puerto Rican. I've been part of the reggaeton scene and the Spanish guys and people that were part of Latin Kings and all this other shit. So I've seen how it's like they have to conform. If they're not conforming to whatever the fuck's going on, everybody looks at you like you're crazy. I've been the crazy person in the room quite a few times, whether it was with my own family, whether it was, like I said, this group, that group, or the other. And there's probably other situations like that I can't remember, but I've always taken, the strong stance on being who I am. I listen to that, I listen to this, make fun of it if you want. If I'm alienated, then I guess I'm alienated. I felt it in, the harshest conditions where I felt super lonely. I felt I was super depressed because you just feel like no one else really knows you, and you just hope that people could get to know you, like the real you, not whatever facade you're putting up for the rest of the world or for the people that you have around you. So I know it's hard, but
Yeah.
just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think what ends up being the inner drive is just a desire to connect and belong. It's a very healthy, natural human drive. We're social animals, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that. I think it's just, do we have to compromise ourselves? Do we have to, squeeze ourselves down into a mold that's comfortable for somebody else? And if we do that, will we ever actually get any kind of sense of real connection or acceptance? Because it's a false self, yeah. Like,
Right.
it's not
Right.
far from what you're looking at with certain personality disorders, is the false self becomes disproportionately important, obviously. But there's a non-pathological version of it where it can still be problematic, where we say like, oh well, my image. I'm like, that's what may or may not be accepted or rejected. I think sometimes people use that because, at least, again, they're not putting their real selves out there to be hurt and rejected. And actually, I know that. I listen to smart people who say there are certainly cases where they'll put up the facade to be able to stay sheltered and concealed. Because, yeah, it doesn't feel good in the moment, but maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe we've listened to too many commercials that are like, you deserve the best, you deserve, blowjobs from beautiful women in expensive cars, and like for why. And everything's gotten to be very convenient and very comfortable and very easily accessible in short order. So, we're calibrated to the wrong things too. We're kind of like, oh, you need it to be comfortable and easy, or it's not the good stuff. I'm like, no, the good stuff's on the other side of challenging and uncomfortable. I just clipped something from Sam Vaknin talking with a comedian. I think his name's Mike Kim, and he was talking about how if you love yourself, you subject yourself to like grief and loss and pain, because it's through that you really become. And when you are you're starting to come out the far side of that, you still need people, you still need connection, but you're less dependent on approval and acceptance. You have a little more of that in yourself, and it's so much richer and it's so much healthier. And I really thought it was well put, that if you not promoting self-harm, but if you really do love yourself and you really want to live the good life and have the meaningful connections and be a real person, there's a certain amount of discomfort and pain along the way. You have to shed things. You have to come to terms with your own BS and sort of go, oh, okay, let's leave that over there. And then you think you're cool for a minute until you realize how much more BS you have to do that with. But as you go, you can kind of learn, like, oh, at each level there is a little more of me. My skin does get a little thicker every time. It's the process of, for some reason people will go to the gym and injure themselves. They'll stay there until they're dehydrated and wounded, trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna make this happen. But you ask them to do that, intellectually or emotionally, and it's like, oh, no. And I don't know, maybe we need to look at what the fitness industry did to get people in there, and the no pain, no gain spirit, and maybe find a more constructive version of it for getting people to the, like, yeah, it's body, mind, and spirit, same rules.
Right. It's just I think that's because a lot of people are very aesthetically driven. So it's all about aesthetics and how things look to other people and how they present themselves to the rest of the world, way more than what's on the inside. So they're just trying to look the part. Okay. If I'm going to listen to a certain type of music, it's because it aesthetically fits how I look and how I dress all the time. So it's based on that.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. What happened? Are you all right?
Oh, it's not interrupting? Okay, I got a phone call coming in. I thought it was carrying over. So
no, it didn't. But yeah, so I think it's a lot of that. People lack courage now because things, like you were saying, are so easy. Everything's easy. It made everybody lazy in a sense. Not every single person, but most people are lazy. So they're not looking for the new music that's out there that no one discovered yet, like people once did when record shops were, every mile down the road there was another record shop, another CD shop. You go in there, you look at the covers, and you try to just find one that fits, or you just test something out. Now it's like, I just want my life to be easy, cozy. I'm gonna get even video games. You don't even have to go to the store for video games. You can just download them. You don't have to tell nobody you've been playing that game. You don't have to go in front of the person that's working behind the register and say, I want to purchase that game. Because that right there is a little, you might get a little.
That's one of those moments.
Right. You might get somebody like, that game sucks behind the register. You might get that, oh, you want that game? Good luck.
How old are you? That's for kids, whatever, Doesn't seem your thing, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, we don't we don't have that interaction anymore either. It's I went to the supermarket last night and it was like, actually I had a few shops I had to go to and it was all 100% self-checkout. I'm like, I enjoy checkout. I enjoy talking with the cashier and the people online, and there's like a whole social element. I don't mind doing my own checkout. That's fine. But I miss that element because everybody's just
Right.
trying to get through this weird alienating thing where you're all in your little stations with your backs turned to each other. There's nobody across the belt from you. Somebody might come over from behind and like put in a code or a card for you, and
Right.
it's these
Right.
shrinking opportunities for social connection, I think, are
Right.
also affecting us. That it creates scarcity and opportunity, and then with what opportunity you have, maybe we feel more amped up to like make the right impression and lock this in because we don't know what comes next. We
Right.
don't know if there's another chance to make an impression on a human being in the next stretch. So, and
Right.
for some
No.
people that can be weeks. There were periods in my life where I couldn't get out, but like once every week or two sometimes. And I don't think I felt that kind of urgency around it. I was just delighted to be in the world talking to people. Um,
Right.
but but yeah, it meant more to me. I was more like, can I linger? How many people can I chat with while I'm here? And before I have to get back in and be on the other level again.
Right.
I felt it kind of amplified the experience a little for me in my own way. So I think you're talking like you don't go and buy things. So, yeah, when you do have a chance to make an impression on people, you've kind of curated it. And we're also being trained to curate everything. So,
Right.
and
Right.
you forget how unnatural it is until you get out in the world. And I saw a woman going by and she had like full Instagram makeup on. It looked great. She did a fabulous job. But to see that in like Walmart, I was like, every other person looks nothing like that. And then she's coming out like what you see online all day. And it looked like just disjointed. Like you're in the wrong place, in
Right.
terms of the image being so refined in what's generally a fairly ad hoc kind of environment. You don't know what you're going to get. It's people of Walmart, right? And like
Right.
just
Right.
see something so polished, I was like, oh, it really drove home the contrast for me.
For sure. But you mentioned self checkout. So the other day, I want to say it was not even a week ago. I think it was like Monday or something. It's usually when I go to the movies, it's usually like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or some shit. Went to the movies. I think it was Monday. Went to the movies because it was my girl's birthday on Sunday. So we did stuff on
Happy birthday,
Sunday.
Melissa.
Happy birthday, Melissa. If you're paying attention, I don't know where the fuck.
Not right
She's
now.
back. She's back behind this screen somewhere. I don't know where she went. But so we went to the movie theaters. We went and got our tickets. I usually just order them from Fandango or whatever, and then I have to go up and we collect our tickets so we don't just scan it and walk in. I scan it, print out the tickets so we can collect them. We have like a case for it because we go to movies all the time.
Nice.
Um, so I went, we got our tickets, we're waiting. I went to go get a beer, whatever, so I could watch the movie with this expensive beer. And I see two kids come in. They're walking where like the the queue lines would be, but it's Monday. There's nobody in the theater, so they have like queue lines to go to the kiosk, the one kiosk that they have running on the side, and then the other person is just behind the register there, where behind concessions, and they will take your, they'll get your tickets for you as well. The kids was like, "We're gonna go." They told them, "Hey, come over here. We can get your tickets." Two kids like, "No, we're gonna go to the kid." So they ran to the kiosk to not have to talk to nobody, as opposed to, which was the long way. You had to go all the way down there and deal with your tickets on the machine, as opposed to, let's just talk to a person for a minute. Hey, I want tickets for this one and that one. Here's my seat, whatever. And it's like, whoa, those weren't kids that were like skittish looking kids, little emo kids that didn't want to talk to nobody. They were like fit kids,
Red-blooded American kids.
right? American kids. Fashion was good. They were on point. Attractive couple. I say kids, but they were probably like 19, whatever. Attractive couple. Looked like they were having a good time, but they refused to talk to somebody in concessions unless they absolutely had to.
Wow. If the
And I
kids
was
weren't so overburdened with all the noise and the things we're making kids study in school, I'm not sure why. What I don't understand is why we can't swap out some of that for basic social skills. Do some critical thinking, basic social skills. Get people doing, get a debate team rocking, like as if it were the football team. Put the money into that and see what happens. Because I think
right,
it's that they don't know how. And then when you show up and it's, you're on the big stage of real life and you don't know how to do a thing, again, you're trying to like preserve your image. You're trying to save face and not go out where you're like, I don't know how to do the thing. I'm like, just go stammer, then go look stupid. Try it a few times. It's amazing. Some people will make it real hard. I feel very comfortable approaching people and talking. Some people make me feel like, am I doing this wrong? So there's some
right,
risk, but I'd say a majority of people are really receptive and even willing to help you if you seem at a loss. Way
right,
more often than not. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
And maybe people just need some reassurance that way. Just start practicing like somebody in the checkout line you'll never see again. Just talk to them. And it's like worst case, they're like, what are you talking to me for? Like, trying to be human. Sorry, wrong species. Keep going.
right,
And
right,
just build it up. Just build it up. But
right. No, you
but our
have to actually
messages are
build it up.
counter to that. Our messages are just sort of stay in your lane, know who you are, find your group, and like toe the party line, and keep your head down, and eat what you're fed. And it's like the brainwashing. We need to try and find a way to get more of the messages out in a broader way, that we start sort of tipping the scale back toward social humans and not, digitized drones, I guess. We're all just kind of, but so many people seem to just be droning and trying to hold on one day to the next. And it just,
Right,
you know, I mean, it's good
right,
for pharmaceutical companies, I guess. It's not good
right,
for too many other people.
right, right. A lot of people are on autopilot, or they like to be in their little collective bubble, but once they go see somebody else from the outside bubble, it's like, ugh, different person, gotta go. There, that's
Yeah.
anxiety right there. That's anxiety 101. Like, if you can't just talk, like, not just to talk to anybody, just be out there, hey, how you doing? Oh, like, don't be a weirdo like that. But if you had to talk to somebody, or if you wanted to talk to somebody, or you saw something, hey, I like that jacket, or, you know, there's a lot of people that feel weird about that shit right there. Just that alone makes them feel
Yeah.
weird now.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and I'm happy to say it's not that often that I encounter it, but I do notice that younger generations coming out really seem like I sometimes feel like I'm doing wrong. I'm like, just saying hi, like I shit in their Cheerios. I'm like, okay, sorry.
Right?
Not
Those,
just like I don't want to talk to you, or I don't know you, or you're weird, go away. It's like I ruined their day. I remember watching programs about I have like Norwegian and Swedish ancestry, so I was like, I know nothing about these countries. So I started looking, and there's some funny people come out and talk about like the weirdest things about our people, let me tell you. And it's that's the culture there. And I was like, oh,
right,
I love so much about those countries and the people. I was like, I couldn't survive because I would always forget, and I'd be like, hi, how you doing? And I'd ruin people's days every day, because that's like they'll sit with like a bag between them. They won't look. The only time they get social is when they've had like epic amounts of alcohol in them, and then they love you. You're their best friend ever. And and then they sober up and go back to stuffing bags between them and averting their gazes. And I'm like, I couldn't live like that. Everything those places have to offer, that's a deal breaker for me. But at this rate, I'm like, how's it going to be in another 15, 20 years if this becomes, you just leave this to run its course without any intervention, without any remediation? That's,
Right.
you're going to have a hard time telling Americans from Norwegians, So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see how this goes. If we can possibly help turn the tide a little, keep us all engaged. And I don't know, I miss things being rowdy. The world used to be rowdy. You never knew. You'd roll out on the street and there was a sense of possibility, and you didn't know where it was going to lead. And now everything's so
Right.
sanitized and safe, and there are little lines painted and signs everywhere. And oh, it's constricting. It's sucking the air and the life out of everything.
Right.
And
Right.
so
And
I'm
there's a
looking to
lot
the
of
creators.
right. And there's a lot of people that like to live that way.
Yeah.
They're enjoying it somehow. Somehow, some way, they're enjoying it, or they don't know any better. They're
Well, I
not
think that's
aware
like,
of what's going on.
yeah, more like that. I think it's like when you grow up in like a not entirely healthy environment. When you encounter that kind of unhealthy environment, it feels like home.
Right.
And I think this has been like we've been conditioned in this unhealthy way, and when we encounter it, it feels like that's our tribe. That's how we do. And I don't know how happy they are in that. I mean, they're not having successful relationships. They're not flourishing in their careers. They're not pursuing passions. They're not secure in their resources. It's just so many challenges. And then you look at the level of depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicide attempted and completed. It's just on the rise. And I think some of that's being told that you can't be afraid, you can't be sad. I think making a taboo of sadness and fear has really helped bring that about, where we're like, well, if I can't be sad, and I can't be afraid, I need an excuse for how I feel. So I have depression, I have anxiety, and it's this big crippling thing that drops me and stops me from doing the things I need to do, which conveniently gives you an excuse for not having to push through the pain. Oh, I can't work out, I got a bum leg, right? It's like, oh, I can't do the thing to grow myself socially and emotionally because I have a bum psyche. And
Right.
this is dangerous if we can't kind of get back to the facts and say, look, these are all just ideas. These are just words. These are models and concepts that are tremendously useful in certain ways, but you have to use the right tool for the job. You're not going to get something unscrewed with a hammer. And I feel like I'm watching a lot of people try to get screws out of things with a hammer right now. And I'm like,
Right.
call me when you're ready to figure this out. I'll help you. I'm here. I'll teach you to climb a chain link fence and get skin knees and keep going. I'll teach you to get laughed at and enjoy that you made people laugh.
Right.
But,
Right. No,
all right,
you're right
they're
about
laughing.
that.
Good.
A lot of people are afraid. They're just afraid. Simply afraid. They're afraid to get hurt. They're afraid of embarrassment. I could only imagine the level of fear they have for being embarrassed because of the fact that like there's always those videos where they catch you somewhere doing some bullshit and then they put it up online and it gets a million fucking views or whatever. You could only imagine what these kids are like that been living it almost all their lives. There's always something on, oh my God, I don't want to be that person. That person got embarrassed. It went 10 million, 100 million people saw it.
It's true. The stakes are way higher. I mean, we could do dumbass stuff and like maybe a handful of people would know and then forget.
Right.
These guys do dumbass stuff and it's like the whole world is going to know you forever for that moment of your life. And I don't know, maybe, I mean, that applies to us too. We're not exempt. That could happen to us right now, but we didn't grow up under that threat. We had a chance to kind of blossom and now this sort of prunes us, but we're full blown and like they never got to blossom. That was like nipped in the bud. So it's an interesting point that the risk of exposure and humiliation is so much higher now. And I mean, I guess for my kids, they're just smart. They just really limit how much they bother to put out there, but it just takes like one friend catching a video and their friend posting it. Like it's still all over. So
Right.
I don't know. Maybe we need to encourage people to become more comfortable with embarrassment. You know, it's never a good feeling. That burning, think your ears are going to catch fire and you just want to crawl away. It's not a good feeling, but it's also not fatal. It's really not the end of the world if you
Right.
you have to sit through some discomfort. And if people learn how to turn and own it, that's another thing. I guess I don't fear being made fun of too much because I can roast me better than anybody. I can go hours just roasting me. I'm like, what you going to say to me I haven't come up with already? Because if you can, I'm impressed.
Right.
Um, at that point, I'm just giving respect and being like, come over here, you're clever, and sort of just saying, okay, it's gonna come to some moments. I'm gonna just cringe and want to crawl away, but I know I'm gonna get up tomorrow and I still have to do the things I have to do, and I'm still the person I am, and I've still put this much good in the world, and it's a new day, and as long as people aren't like keeping you from being able to go to the store and do your thing, like I can imagine for some people it becomes so bad they can't go anywhere without being harassed. That's different. But I think most people who would have that kind of exposure, it might be your school or, a community you're involved with. There's only so many people, really. It's not actually the whole world. There are places in the world where people still don't have real connection to this. There are a few scarce pockets hanging on, but it can't be everyone in the world. It's
No.
just, it's refining that and being like, yeah, even at that, it's not really everyone. So
Right.
I don't know. I've had to wrestle with this, like I said, coming out and doing videos. I don't. How long was I struggling with myself about that for the last couple of years? I was like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, why? Why can't you do that? And it finally came down to me being like, look, if you can get over being camera shy, you can do most of the other things. Can we work on that? And maybe that's it. Is maybe it's not all these things are against a person. Maybe it's just really one of them. People could really get in and evaluate and be like, well, the real reason I don't listen to that music in front of my friends, or, admit
Right.
I like this show, whatever, is this, or why I'm afraid of being out there doing what I love is not, maybe it's not stage fright or camera shyness. Maybe it's, you really believe in what you're doing and it hurts too much when it gets rejected. I'm like, okay, then start small with people who are going to encourage you and give you real feedback so you can build it out to where you feel more solid with it. Then when people come at it, you can kind of say, well, you can't please all the people,
Right.
and not take it as personal because you feel more solid in what you're doing.
Right.
And work more on the substance than the presentation.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
Richard just did a good video. He was riffing on stories and then turned it into a video saying that form must follow function. And I'm like, yeah, you say you do what you love, and the music follows what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and you channel all of that in, and then that's the form, is what comes
Right.
out the other side. And I think people could put more focus on just functioning and letting the form around that.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
think it works for people too.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are, one thing that you said there was, you said, I can't do this because of that. And then you also said, but why can't you do that?
Question it.
I think a lot of people don't question themselves. They just automatically, no, I can't do it. Oh, that's just how I am. It's how I've always been. I can't do it. And it's like, when you
The wall
even
goes up.
when you even ask them the why, a lot of people don't want to hear it. There's been plenty of times where I told people, you don't have to tell me the why right now, but when you get a chance, go home, think about the why, come back to me, and we'll talk about the why. And
That's good
and,
guidance. I like that.
and they would not. They would either not do it, and maybe a few people came back and said, "Oh, it's because of this," or it's because of that, or let me tell you a story, all this shit happened to me over here and that's why I feel this way. There's been a few, but the majority of
Yeah.
people just want to write you off and just, no, I can't. I just can't. I'm this way. And that's it. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, we're way
I'm
more
this way. This is my identity. These are my limits. Like, argue for your
we're
limitations and they're yours.
right. We're way more malleable than that.
Mhm.
Way more malleable than that. And a lot of people don't want, either they don't understand that, they don't want to believe that, or they're just comfortable in the bubble that they reside in, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a comfortably uncomfortable. I think back at the chapters of my life, and I'm like, yeah, I was comfortably uncomfortable. It sucked. I knew it sucked, but the idea of having to like even just break the inertia, summon whatever it is to get the ball rolling. It seemed like, oh, you know what, this sucks, but it's the devil I know. And I would waste portions of my time on Earth being like, I don't know how to, and I have a lot of empathy for that because it just has a lot of gravity. You kind of, I think you have to have a certain almost discomfort. Like the discomfort exceeds the challenge at a level, and I guess that's why you hear quotes about be thankful for the difficulties you face. Variations on that theme, because that is what sort of spurs you to get up and be like, all right, this sucks bad enough that I don't want to know this devil anymore. Bring me the devil I don't know. And I've taken it for granted recent years where I'm like, oh, this sucks. Okay, that's a sign for me to move. Where do I need to move? What is this pushing on or toward that I need to orient? And I don't get caught up in like, oh no, this thing's happening. I'm like, all right, this thing's happening. I'm uncomfortable. What moves am I going to make? Because this feels like both the call to move and the spur in the side that's going to make me want to. So it's I don't know. Talking about being resilient and courageous is good, but then you kind of got to break down the mechanics of it and be like, some of it's mindset and looking at a thing, and instead of being like, this thing's happening to me, I'm on my heels, I'm a hapless victim, all I can do is take what's dealt to me. You're like, this force is at play in my life. This is my life. What can this drive me toward? What can this pry me off of? What can this break out of me? What can this allow me to break out of? And just see those forces as again, sort of tools that are there to be used. And it's not easy, but when you start practicing and you build up the strength, it becomes almost reflexive. And
Right.
there's not much better than that, to live in a life where you're like, oh, this stuff's happening, and to look at it and go, okay, so I will do this, and not go into meltdowns about I'm worthless, I'm alone in the world, I can't do anything right, what's wrong with me, why is the world so cruel and corrupt, and like, what are you going to do with any of that? Where's that going to get you? But like, you can wear a hole in the rug just walking back and forth over those things. That's about all you can create with that.
Right.
So I don't know how we get to where we can help. First of all, stop teaching people the bad stuff as people are coming up. We need to change the program instead of doubling down on it. And also the people who are now adults who are out in the world, like set in their ways. How do we help them kind of move past that? Because I don't think there's any hope for a culture that can't communicate. People can't communicate with themselves and each other effectively. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, there's obviously a motive for why they're teaching people the wrong way, and I'll say they, the great they, but there's
Those
obviously a
who
motive.
benefit from the lucrative effects of it. Let's put it that way.
Correct. Correct. They push this on to easily influence the minds, so that way it can carry them for the rest of their life, especially if you get them at a certain age. That might form their identity in a sense, you know? They might think this is who I am, like we were speaking. They might this is who I am because this, that, and third, but really that was just shit that was pushed onto you. Spent millions, if not billions of dollars to push that onto you so that way you can feel that that's who you should be and that's who you are and that's who you need to be to survive all of this shit.
And that they're spending millions and billions of dollars tells you how lucrative it is, because that's the buy-in. They're expecting good return on investment at that rate. How much are they just like, woo, bringing it in? And who wants to give that up? And it's not even that simple. You can't be like, okay, big corporation, bad guys, stop that, because that's going to cause problems too. It needs to be gradual, and it needs to be replaced with things, because you go after all the millionaires, then most of their money's tied up in the businesses that employ people, that provide services, that you start taking them down, you take down all of that. And I'm not a fan of Jeff Bezos, but if you go after him and take all his money, then what about all the people who are working for him? Like, that's going to affect them and their communities when they're all unemployed. And it's not as simple as like, oh, we just have to redistribute the wealth, which is scary, because I really do hear people talking about like, let's bring back communism. I'm like, or let's bring back history books, see which one shakes out the better answer.
Right. I do feel like, yeah, communism is not a good thing, but there should be some limits. And it's the same thing that they thought of back in the day. No monopolizing on things.
Right.
But now
we had antitrust laws that were appropriate for that market at that time, but we haven't updated them to cover this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's really biting us in the ass, and there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of these big companies, they have endless lawyers. They don't just have one lawyer, go talk to my lawyer. No, they have like a whole foundation of lawyers that can handle things, find the loopholes, find ways to exploit the people. And it leaves a lot of people hopeless and helpless, especially when they don't know any better. And like, I know you, you know me, but how many other people that you know like me? How many other people do I know like you?
Yeah, it's one in so many, depending on where you find yourself. Yeah,
it's slim pickings, exactly, and that's the problem. That's the problem on our hands.
Well, the good news is the same thing that they invested in to break us is available to people like us to use to find others. And if there are enough of us, and we can kind of keep pushing the messages out there. You've seen it happen with other groups. There was sort of like an intellectual wave of like, or left field thinkers, like people coming in with crazy ideas, and that was just using this technology. A lot of that was people just getting on and doing podcasts around the issues that they felt weren't getting attention. And they became big conversations over time. I don't think maybe, like a person can just start a podcast and get out and reach the big market. But if enough people are doing it, it can sort of spread grassroots. Just gets in from the bottom up, and people where you are, I know people where I am. People have different online, it's like a different geography, but there's kind of like, there are places online where the people. And woke culture was nothing. We used to make fun of these people. We'd be like, oh, get out of here with that. We wouldn't tolerate it. And they just got together and they kept working it, and it takes time, but if you get started, get a jump on it. By the time it would really be, oh, the wheels are coming off, we're done for. Maybe we've got, we've got the wheels aligned by then, and we can keep
Right.
this thing driving down the road in a good direction, because
Right.
we all have to take a turn at the wheel too. You come to a point in your life, you're like, oh, I am the grown-ups. Let's see if we can get together and make sure we're doing our part to steer this. So
Right. Right. No, and at the same time, like even woke culture, people made fun of certain things, and there was a lot of truth in the woke culture in the beginning of it. The problem that
yeah.
I keep on seeing is
Mm.
when something gets pretty big, somehow, some way, the powers that shouldn't be end up putting enough money into it where they contort it and they turn it into something that it wasn't in the beginning.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, for something
and
like this, you need to be
that's
very cognizant of that. I'm sorry?
right, and that's no, you're good. And then that's with social media. So, for instance, like if there's a group bubbling, what I've seen recently, the only groups that can bubble is if there's some hatred involved. So if it's hatred and it's this group, fuck this group, we're this group over here, so that group over there, they can go fuck themselves. When it's that, it always can escalate and bubble into something massive. When it's something that comes into like we all love each other, we should all be one, we should all respect each other, everybody comes from different places. No one either they don't want to hear that, they either don't want to hear it, or when it becomes a big enough message, they nip it at the bud. They it's been countless times where you see that, and even social media right now, if you pushing that message out, they will stagnate your fucking reach, and it's disheartening. It's upsetting to say the
Yeah, and
least. You know.
they don't care if we hate each other. They just know that if we're enraged and in conflict, we're going to stay engaged and do, put in more time. We're going to be able to like give them the attention they're trying to harvest. And that's on
Right.
us though. We're like, "Oh, the social media." I'm like, "Right, but each of us show up and make a choice." And I
Right.
think if there's a way to get people, and that's I think it was a Mark Twain quote about, it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. It's something to that effect. And I'm like, that's really maybe the biggest challenge in this, is convincing people that you're you're being they're making a chump of you. They're like, ha, I get you angry and you do what I want you to do. I'm like, if
Right.
we could get that out to people, like, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Like, just be more savvy. Like, and maybe it's as simple as coming up with like an endearing caricature of somebody who like totally falls for everything, and just like memeing it and like pushing it out there until we catch something, until it catches virally, and like it becomes that sort of message of like, oh yeah, I don't want to be the guy if somebody pushes my big red shiny red button, and shiny button, and I'm like, poof, I detonate. Like,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's not a strong look. That's not sexy.
I
That's not powerful.
yeah, and
I've
I would
I've had
hope
my button pushed. I don't feel proud when they get the explosion they're looking for. I don't like that.
right, and I would hope that that would work. But unless there's a big group behind it, in some sense, I don't see it being this grandiose thing
Yeah.
because when people like when the guys talk shit about gold digging girls, that's big because there's a big group of dudes upset and they have been burned by gold digging girls. The girls, when they are talking shit about certain guys that did bullshit, what have you, there's a group that have been burned in that way. Until we all are aware that we've been burned in what way or another, that it'd be hard pressed to find the group that says, "Hey, man, we need to stop with this bullshit over here." And like I said, his name escapes me right now. There's a dude that Richard Grannon talked to, and he ended up getting a strike on his channel for
Oh, is it Ike? Is it David Ike?
David Icke.
Yeah.
He's been nipped. He's been nipped in the bud. Okay, so you can say it was because he was saying that all reptilians, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. Maybe they're not reptilians. But how many other motherfuckers on YouTube have said that people are reptilians and shit? Go look on your YouTube right now when you get off this video and look up reptilian government shit. You'll find a slew of videos, all types of people, millions of views here and there. But when David Icke says it, he follows it with we're all together, we're all in this together, and we're all intertwined, and we need it. And that's the part that they don't like. It's not because he said this, that, and the third, because plenty of people have said this, that, and the third. It's when he says unify us as a whole is where people go, no, can't say that. Go to your own fucking website with that shit.
Yeah, that's like rabble rousing. That's not good for the powers that be. And I don't know. I think that's why we have to find each other out here and like create some sort of big group. But I'm also aware it really has to be guerrilla tactics. You can't be like out there like all lined up with your, what is it? Your red uniforms with your musket over your shoulder marching in a line. That's not going to work. You got to be like the colonists figuring out how to do it from the trees with rocks. And so some of it's getting like amassing the numbers that you're enough of a force, but also being clever enough that you know how to sort of disappear into the woodwork, and that you set yourself up that everything can be a burner, whether it's a web page, a platform, a politician. They're all burners. Like, we'll burn them, we'll keep going, because that's really the only thing I've thought of that would flummox their works, really.
Right.
So like you find people who do not want a political career, who are capable, who have some basic leadership skills and a good grasp of relevant knowledge, and you pretend like it's military service, and in Israel everybody has to do a certain amount of time in the military, and anybody who would want to be part of this would say, okay, I would make myself available for a certain term of political service. That I don't want to be there. I don't want a political career. The party sends me in with so many things that are on the list to try to get done this year. My whole focus is on that. I don't care who says what or does what or tries to take me out. Like, try of shooting me. I don't care. Like, as long as I walk out of here on my own 2 feet, come at me. And then if it's like unpopular, you're not going to win the next vote. It's like, good, I'm going back to my real life anyway. What you going to do? You can't hold that over me. A lot of what happens is because we have career politicians instead of civil servants. And we need people who are willing to volunteer as like kamikaze civil servants to do a tour in government or something at a level they can do if it's not that. And just understand that it's going to go terribly. They're going to tear you down, and you don't care. You can't wait to get back to real life anyway. That's the slipperiest thing that the powers that be could possibly have to wrangle with, because they can't like hold getting the vote over your head. So now what happens? Right. Or they can't say, we're going to deplatform you. You're like, it's our platform. Come get us. We'll make our own, and we'll be ready to burn it down with another one in the wings. If you find some way to get someone to intervene and take this out from us, under us, we have another one in the chute ready to go. We're just going to hit the big button and fire another one. And you just wear them down. And I think if you could just get traction, just enough, just get your shot heard around the world, people would gather around that. I think people would break out of their torpor and their despair and sort of like pull up and go, what's happening? I remember Occupy Wall Street. Everybody was so excited to see young people getting out and doing a thing until they sat on their own nuts and just made a spectacle of it. But people were like, oh, hey, people are getting out and doing a thing. And we were watching, hoping, and maybe some of us would have gotten involved if they'd had a plan, had a clue. You know, but like it's just getting that initial group of people together and then figuring these things out and finding the people who have the resources. You definitely have to draw on people with resources, because I can't start a multi-million-dollar social media platform. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna go tinker in the shed.
Yeah,
No.
that's the big issue. Hey, Liz, I only have 1% right now on my phone, so it's about to cut off any minute.
We're coming up on a 90 minutes here anyway. 124. Here we go.
Right. So let's just try to end this in a peaceful note before I just cut off and my phone shuts off on me in my face.
Yes. Well, before we got into overthrowing everything as it is. We were talking about creative efforts, and I do think it's through creators that we have the best chance of finding a better way forward and building these networks. So I'm delighted you were able to take some time from your busy schedule and come out and explore these ideas. I thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime in the near future.
Yes, we will. I'm gonna get you back on the Street Shaman podcast too once I launch it back up. I got to get Richard back on, talk about the book. I'm gonna get UG back. I'm definitely gonna have you back, and then I'll see where.
Yeah, she's holding down Jersey City for you.
Yes, she is.
We got to get you back out this way.
Yeah, I haven't been out there in fucking years. Yeah. I don't even know what it looks like.
Get your phone charged. Come party.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Until then, thank you.
Until then.
Be well.
You too. Take care.
Bye.